7 o'clock, so I want to open the zoning board of appeals meeting for October 25th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We're going to conduct this meeting with the rules of procedure identified at our February meeting. If unlikely case of an emergency, there's an exit over here, an exit over here. Please, if there's an emergency, find the nearest exit and get out in a calm fashion. Introductions for staff. So introductions. Off to my right, we have Jill Tardy, Todd Ruthven. I'm Jeremy Marshall, Tom York, and Jody Bennix. Clerk of the board, Sarah. Forever for clerk. Director of Development, Ron Brand. And then we have John Weinborn, zoning officer. Approval of meeting for minutes for September 27th. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I motion.
For a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. I attest to the publishing of the legal notices. There was 2 legal notices published on October 17th for tonight's agenda. All right. Public hearing for ZB 1001-21 Jeffrey and Marianne Waka. Is that right? 164 Bittersweet Drive, Athens. Requested area variance to chapter 165, attachment 1, schedule 1 of the Farmington Town Code, wishes to erect a 6-foot long by 24-foot wide porch on the attached to the front end of the residence. The proposed front setback of 44 feet. The town code requires a minimum setback of 50 feet. Anybody want to speak for or against this? If so, stand up and say your name and address, and it'll be yours. No one? You guys don't want to say anything about it?
We would speak for it. Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Really, it's just something we're doing to add an aesthetic appeal to the home, to be able to give a covered entranceway to the house. It's not ever meant to be a dwelling or any extension of dwelling as far as occupied space.
Sure.
Just an open porch basically will be covered and attached to the existing room.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak for or against this? Any questions from the board? Any comments from staff? Ron?
Anyone online? Just Dan.
Dan is online?
Yes.
Oh, Dan, our code enforcement officer, is online.
I'm not sure if he has ability to speak,
Okay.
but he is observing.
Do you guys have any comments, Ron?
No, John and I
Dan?
drove by the property, we saw the neighborhood, we drafted 2 resolutions for your consideration. First one, of course, is seeker just classifying it as a type 2. Second one is the approval with some conditions, normal procedures.
Nobody else going to speak for or against it? I'll close the public hearing for ZB 1001-21 and open the public hearing for ZB 1002-21 Scott A. Harper, PE 7172 Victor Pittsburgh Road, Victor. Applicant wishes to request an area variance in accordance with 165 and Article 5, Section 54 of the Town Code. Wishes to erect a 3,456 square foot accessory structure, a barn in the front yard portion of the law of 640 County Road 48. The town code requires all accessory structures to be located in the rear portion of the yard. Anybody want to speak for or against?
Yes, I'm Scott Harper, I'm the person who is designated to be the applicant tonight for the variance that you just described. I'm here to present to the board various forms of information, including a number of aerial photographs that we submitted for display. I'm hoping that they can come up on the screen to show a couple of things that we think are material to this particular variance. I guess it's my understanding, doing this type of work for many years, that this variance, as I've seen it enforced in various towns, is typically intended to create uniformity in a neighborhood. And that it's most noticeable when you get into a more urbanized neighborhood such as some of the Ryan subdivisions that we see both in Victor and Farmington, where houses are very close to one another. Being a Victor resident and a member of their zoning board, now current, or the planning board, we see a variety of homes in the agricultural areas of Victor that have been qualified for variances just like this. When you get out into the rural areas, the uniformity aspect of this variance or this requirement doesn't really seem to be so much at hand. At least that's the way it's perceived by some of the boards that I've been on and that I've appeared before. What I wanted to present to you tonight is the neighborhood as we see it from pictometry. I've submitted several photographs going from 2001 all the way back to 2009 before the project, the home that's on 640 County Road 8 was ever constructed. If you see what we have in this photograph and in other photographs, you see that the home was constructed in the area where a barn existed once upon a time. And the barn was put there presumably by a farmer because it was one of the optimal locations in which to put structure. The home went in, and as a result of putting in the home in that location, there was a lot of excavation that occurred. And the point that we're trying to make tonight, that if we put the barn in the location that qualifies to meet the code requirement, we are going to go up that hill as well. And the contours that I submitted in a recent drawing show that to be the case. And as a result, you're going to see additional excavation, just like you see there with the area, if you will, kind of hollowed out, for lack of a better description, by the house as it currently sits. It's most effective, most optimal, it fits the site better to situate the barn at approximately the location we have identified, which is about here. It is, yes, it is technically in the front yard of the lot. And that is what triggers the reason for us all being here tonight, yes. But it is a better fit topographically. And in terms of a practical difficulty, can the barn be placed in the rear yard? Yes, it could. However, it would involve a lot more excavation and a lot more effort. And it would practically be more difficult to put it in the rear yard. Whereas it fits better exactly where it is. And you can see that the proposed location right here is also in alignment, plus or minus, with Chris Wade's property, which is to the southwest. And Chris, who I think may speak in a little while, will probably identify his visual impact, if you will, with respect to the barn that's going in there, how the location that we proposed is a mitigating factor for that. So we acknowledge all the things that have come out by code, that this is not complying with your code. But what I'm here to suggest is that the location that we proposed is a better location. If you take a look at the street view, I think we have a street view photograph to show as well. I don't know if that can be displayed. But if you view the, there you go. If you view the property from street view, and that's Google Street, you'll see these are Chris's barns in the back. So the Laughlin barn would be back about here. And if we were to situate the barn in the rear yard, it would be at a higher elevation up here and much more visible and noticeable from the street. Going back to what I think is the purpose of the code item that you have, which is uniformity, I think that treating this from a visual impact standpoint and agreeing with the neighborhood as we're doing, I think that's a better way to handle this situation. I think strict adherence to the code is not going to give the applicant or the neighborhood the look and the project that they really want. So that's pretty much my presentation. I agree with what your code enforcement officer has done in terms of drafting up the the regulations that we're not complying with. We don't disagree with that at all. But this is a situation where just common sense is really the underlying factor. It makes sense to put the barn in this location. It's in agreement with the immediate neighbor to the south, who has done almost exactly the same thing. We've taken a look at some of the correspondence that's come in from others in the area via email, some of which was shared with us today. There are some neighbors who don't like it. There are some neighbors who do like it. I would submit that the person or the neighbor who's most important is the neighbor to the south. And I would also submit that his property is the defining property. It really does represent the neighborhood. It's almost identical in shape and size as to what we're proposing to do here. So that's my presentation.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak for or against? Frank, just state your name and.
Can I come up?
Yep.
Yeah, my name's Christopher Wade, and these are my barns. I own 40 acres. I own to the south of Tim and Kelly, Lockland, and I also own to the west of Tim and Kelly, Lockland. My property is in L. Like I said, I've been there for 29 years. The view from my backyard, if you look at the picture, like my backyard here, if Tim followed your code and had to put, you know, a barn back in here somewhere, it's really gonna affect my view of my property. I mean, this property, this woods line is mine, and I can see it from sitting on my porch. And if you put a barn there, I'm not gonna be able to see my own property. I mean, a barn this size. There is a woods line here. So you really can't see the barns that I have from the road. That woods line across the center, you know, blocks the view from the road. And, you know, I guess that we're kind of asking together, one of the reasons he chose the spot was I was agreeable with it. That I think it's the best spot on his property for a barn, the best spot for me on his property for a barn. So I guess, you know, it's going to be up to you. I hope that you approve it. I mean, do you have any questions for me?
I know.
No? Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak for or against? State your name, please.
Sure. Tim Locken, 640 County Road 8. This is my project. I've asked Scott to represent me here. So I do appreciate the board's time in hearing this. So as Chris said, I'm trying to balance here the effect of the environment. Where my wife and I chose to locate our house, we did a lot of excavation, a lot of work. We went under DEC review for that, which I agree with. Scott put together a drainage system for our backyard, for our house. It's very complex. It's a series of pipes underground, and it was an awful lot of money when we built our house. I don't really want to have to disturb that land further. So we've done a lot of cutting and making things flow correctly and trying to be a good neighbor, not flow storm runoff water on other people's property. And this is something, Chris and I have talked about and said, if this location is the best location for him, it certainly feels like it's the best location for my wife and I. It gives us easier access. Going to code, we would probably be looking at least maybe 200 feet of driveway. Here we're looking at about 60 feet of driveway, so we're just extending our turnaround into a flat field. And behind that flat field, it starts to rise. And if we go to code, for one, it's blocking Chris's view, and for two, it's going to create a lot more excavation, shaping the land, and things like that. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I do not know if the board, any questions? Staff have any questions?
How much farther would it have to come down to be considered behind in the backyard?
Has to be behind the rear plane is what code says.
We have a drawing with a red line. I don't know if that's what you have in front of you.
I don't think that was including your packet. That was one of the emailed ones.
I have paper version of it.
But you said it's 100%.
It'd be 100% because it's
Right now.
entirely in the side front yard.
Right.
Where if it were to slide back, it'd be partially inside in the rear yard, then less of a percentage.
The red line represents the rear, the beginning of the rear lot for both properties. So you can see how it would have to go up. And actually, since we started speaking with Chris in more detail over the weekend, I think we have come to the conclusion that it's possible we'd like to shift it 20 foot more in this direction and take opportunity to get out of the contours over here. We didn't have the benefit of these contours at the time that we submitted our information to you, but upon further discussions with Chris and taking a look at what we came up with, ideally we'd like to shift it another 20 feet in that direction. That would be
Into the front part.
yeah, into the front yard. Because of the topography and the grade there, it just fits better.
What is that grade though? I mean, how?
Well, each one of those contours represents a foot. So as you come up, you're starting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're about 10 foot higher up here from there to there.
There's a full contour map I can screen too for you.
No, you can't back, sir?
No, that's okay.
There's a full contour map. Of the property.
Does anybody else want to speak for or against this? State your name and the floor will be yours.
Yes, James Laughlin, I live at 640 Hunter Road 8, Farmington, New York. I will be directly in front of the proposed project. So that's where that line goes to the hedgerow, my house is right
This one started.
Yes.
there.
That says
All
on the
right.
screen.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right. This is his.
Yes.
This is the barn and that's it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Questions are harder without this. So, but I have no problem with that. I think it's a place to be. This is when, that's actually my house when we put our lawn in and all that. As I look out today, out my back, I see Chris's property there, beautiful, maintains it. I see the two barns there today. I look out in the future, I like to see my sons behind there, right behind the hedgerow too. It's a ways back up the hill. I think, ergonomically and aesthetically, that's the best thing to do. And I live right in front of it. So, any questions for me?
No, sir, I don't. Anybody from the board? Anybody from staff? No. No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak for or against this? Okay,
I do have one question. You mentioned the drainage issue. If you were to disrupt the drainage system that you currently have by leaving the barn in the back of the property, have you looked into how that's going to influence your current system at all?
Well, we haven't done a site plan relative to the barn. Just looking at the size of the barn and comparing it with the size of the house, it is a large barn. So, and it too, like the house, has a flat floor, first floor. So anytime you try to put a flat first floor on a sloping site, you end up cutting and filling typically. So I don't know at this point whether there would be disturbance to the existing system that we put in. I don't think we've really gotten that far in our design. This was kind of the first stop along the way. If we do get the variance, we would be happy to share with you the site plan we plan on doing. I don't believe it's required by the town of Farmington that we submit a site plan, but we're going to do one anyway for the sake of doing it right and also making sure that we have good drainage control. As to whether we impact the existing drainage that's there now, which is a large and deep stone-filled drain that follows the toe of the slope around the house. I can't say with 100% certainty. I think we would try to avoid it if we possibly could. And the location we're proposing does that. It won't interfere with that.
Even if you move it up 20 feet further to the east.
20 feet, the further east we go, the easier it is to agree with the topography of the site. So, yeah, we're even further removed as we head east.
Any other questions from the board? Ron, any comments?
Yeah, you've had a lot of information presented tonight that wasn't part of the pack. And we had asked, previously for identifying what these difficulties would be of putting the barn in the rear yard where code requires it to be. If you're contemplating what we drafted based on the information that we have given, a resolution for denial, because there wasn't any justification shown for granting relief. Now, if you feel granting relief would help mitigate the visual qualities of that area and would help with the drainage issues and slope stabilization and things of this nature, then you would want to have a resolution drafted that would have some conditions attached to it. And while Mr. Harder is correct that there isn't a requirement for a site plan approval by the planning board, there would be, to the town's advantage, having a detailed design of where on the property they were proposing to put this and what the cut and fill would be and disturbance, so that we know we're not impacting the existing drainage around the house. And we know that we're not adversely impacting drainage in the adjacent properties. There's the applicant's engineer tonight stated they haven't done that. Okay, so if there's going to be a different location from what we were given, based on discussions they had over the weekend, then my recommendation to you tonight, and the board is not going to like me for this, would be to continue the public hearing and ask for that detailed information to be presented to you, along with the perhaps an engineer's report from the town on the effects of that.
John, you got anything?
Code enforcement officer Del Priori would like to speak, so I'll defer to him for a second if you're okay.
Perfectly okay. Listen to-
Hey, Dan, are you on?
All right, can you hear me okay?
Sure.
All right, so I would like to go back in history on this one a little bit, as I was the code officer for the residential when this house was built. And John, could you pull up the elevation drawing for me again to display on the screen?
Yep.
All right, and if you look at this, you'll see on this drawing that it had an existing barn at the turnaround of this driveway. And that barn was required to come down when they built this house. The applicant was told about that. I remember having many conversations with the home builder in regards to this. So to see an application come back in front of the town in a similar location to something that when it went through planning and all that was slated to be removed, I think this board should take caution in approving a structure back in a location that another town board was projecting this to be removed at. So if anybody has questions about those conditions, I would be more than happy to answer those at this time.
Dan, why was the barn being told to be taken down?
Because of the location. It wasn't in an approved location because of where they wanted to build their house. So you have to remember when they went in front of the planning board and they had to remove all that dirt and everything behind there, that's where they chose to put the house on this lot. So, and with that, they knew that that barn had to come down because of the location of where they were putting their house.
Because it would make it in the front yard.
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, but wasn't there another issue associated with the barn? I think in the town of Farmington, you can't have a barn structure solely on a piece of property without a residence to go along with it. Isn't that one of your code items too?
That is not true. An
No.
agricultural lot can have a barn without a principal structure. But since we were having a principal structure put on this lot now, the location of that barn would be an accessory structure, and then that would have to be located in the backyard, as we are addressing tonight.
Okay, with respect to the original barn that was out there, we have shown on the photographs that we submitted, this barn is going, I'm looking at our drawing from several years ago, I believe we're going about, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 feet further south than where that barn was located.
Yeah, I understand that, but again, both barns are located in the front yard, where when the applicant built the house, told that that couldn't be allowed per our code. And now again, he's in the same situation of being told it wasn't allowed per code. And like I said, our planning board, when approving that, made sure of that being recognized, that that barn was in the front.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm gonna recommend that we're gonna continue this public hearing. Reason being is this, and I usually don't get reasons, we just continue it to next month. But a lot of new as Ron said, a lot of new information. We got letters today, for and against. We got good information, the presentation was great. But I'm gonna let you know, one of the things about the zoning board, you being the zoning board member prior, is you have to grant the minimal relief. And there is area in the backyard, there's enough room for a barn in the backyard. But there are other litigating circumstances around it. So I'm gonna continue this hearing for you to get the staff to see if there are any relief that we can give here, okay? With drinking in regards to drainage onto, I don't want draining on your property either, but we have to follow the law. That's where I'm at. So I'm gonna continue this public hearing until next month, so you guys kind of work with staff on this, see, figure something out, okay?
I think we would be happy to submit a mini site plan, if you will, on where we are proposing the barn, we believe is in the best location, and in agreement with the neighbor, and potential drainage onto the neighbor, so that we have a little more information. And you know, I think Ron, when we get into these types of projects, and we typically start out with a variance, and then depending on how things go from the variance, we tend to go on a site plan. But I think this is one of those projects where the site plan kind of directly relates to the variance. It can help justify the variance. And when I look at the map that was up on the screen, that was a design drawing that we did when Tim first built his house. And one of the reasons I went out, we got additional elevations out there, is because we weren't sure what has changed since the house was built. That's a design drawing, and that's a really nice design drawing, but sometimes they don't always build it exactly the way the design drawing shows. So it's helpful to do a localized site plan to see if everything is still the same in that area, or if some changes have happened. For example, where is the drain exit point that comes out of there? I know we show something on our design plan. I don't know exactly where it ended up in the construction process. It may have.
The design plan would be helpful, the site, any information you can give us would be helpful.
And I think that it will also show what we presented, which is that there is a better area there from the standpoint of excavation. You know, I was thinking of the terminology practical difficulty. Is the practical difficulty to do this? Well, and I mentioned to your code or your zoning officer that, you know, you can put the building up there, but is it practically difficult to get it up there? Yes, it is practically difficult to get it up there because you practically have to lay into the hillside to make that thing fit. So depending on your definition of practical difficulty and your interpretation, and whether you think the mitigation of being closer to the tree row and closer to the existing barns that are already in place, I think it's a balance. And I think that's exactly what the 5 criteria are for you. It's always a balance. So as we see the balance says this is the best location, not only from balancing all the environmental factors and the neighborhood factors, but also just from the common sense factor. That's what we see.
Great, thank you. Would you show on that drawing your topo of what it would
Yes.
look like there? And if it went further back, what it would do to the topo?
Sure.
Great, we'd have a comparison.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Is there any option to making this barn smaller? How did you guys come about this, our size?
I have 3 children and, sorry, I didn't say that. I have 3 children and they're, we're in high school, it's school age. I'm really looking for, when I grew up, I gotta go play in my neighbor's barn. Play some basketball, run around. That's part of it. Both my father and I restore old cars. So we have a tractor, a plow truck, 4-wheelers, lots of things that have to sit outside today. So we were hoping to have something that was big enough to fit. And taking advice from some very long-time friends, Chris and others, they've always said, build it as big as you can. So I'd like to build something that's big enough to house the stuff that I can work on my passion and work on some old cars and also be able to store some stuff for my children and things like that.
Is this gonna have a concrete floor on it?
Not at first. So I think when the time comes, I think letting that settle, maybe that's a year or 2 from now. So I think we could eventually have a concrete floor in there, but it's not something at first. Thank you.
When was that house originally built? When did the, I know Dan mentioned that the town board suggested removing the original barn. Do you know what year that decision was made?
2018.
Yeah, we moved into our house in November of 2018.
Okay,
The meeting that he's speaking of is in 17,
okay,
when that took place. That barn was immediately in front of that.
Okay.
So it sat like right in front of it. It was, people say it's like, oh, you chose the spot. When you keep going up the hills on my land, that was the flattest spot. So that was really the flattest. We didn't want to keep going, but we just chose the flattest spot. And that's where the barn was.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? None? Bob?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First thing, we heard tonight that you wanted it big enough to put all this toys on. So I would expect the zoning board of appeals would place a condition that there'll be no outside storage of toys allowed. Is that something just to let you know, okay? Secondly, this building was put in without a fire pull-off lead for the fire trucks, which is a requirement now in the town code. So you're going to have to show that design, that pull-off area, and work with John here, the assistant fire chief, to make sure that it's in the right location and whatnot. And thirdly, when we talk about a mini site plan, we want a plan that basically the town engineer can look at and determine where the flows are, what issues are concerned. I haven't heard anything about tonight how you're going to get a driveway across your drain pipe there that you have for the house, and what measures you're going to incorporate in that. So there's a good deal of work to be done here in a short period of time. I'd ask you to give Dan a call tomorrow and find out what the deadline is that he wants those drawings in, so that we can review them, and you feel you need to have a meeting with us, let us know, we'll try to arrange that.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be good. And another thing, that I noticed is kind of helpful under these circumstances is if any of the zoning board members would like to visit the site. I don't know if you have at this point, but if you would like to visit the site and.
I'm the guy that drove down your driveway a little bit. That's me.
It's a long way up
Like
there.
that, I was halfway up the driveway. I drove up, I was one of the big two that drove up your driveway a little bit, until I realized it was your driveway.
But you really have to drive up the driveway and go all the way over and occupy the end of the driveway to kind of take this all in, I think. And so, I don't know what your process is in the town of Farmington, but I assume if you would like to, you could send an email to perhaps Sarah, and Sarah could set up something with Tim,
Absolutely.
whereby he would be there and be able to give you a tour.
Sure.
2 at a time.
2 at a time, yeah, absolutely, no more than 2. If not, you're breaking the open meeting law.
Go on a quorum, right?
And we have to invite the entire town to your property.
I'll have drinks ready.
Great. So we're gonna continue this public hearing to next month. Okay. So we're gonna go to board deliberations and decisions for ZB 1001-22. Motion on seeker.
I'd like to have a motion to waive the reading of secret since accepted as submitted.
That's right. Roll call vote.
For seeker.
For seeker.
Jill. Jeremy.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Jody. Aye.
All right, seeker passes. So then we have a resolution. Make sure I have the right one. We have a motion for resolution.
I have a motion for the resolution to waive the reading of it and just read the determinations.
All right. Determination of the zoning board of appeals based on the above factors, the zoning board of appeals has reviewed the 5 proofs, find that the benefit of the applicant does outweigh any detriment to the community or neighborhood, and therefore the requested area variance to erect the front porch 44 feet from the front line instead of the required 50-foot setback is approved with the following conditions. The porch is to comply with all other state and local building and construction codes. The porch addition is to match to the extent practical the exterior treatment of the existing structure. Any light fixture to be installed as part of the proposed porch addition to comply with town's dark sky lighting regulations contained in chapter 165 of the town code. A building permit shall be required by the applicant prior to the start of construction. At no time in the future shall the porch become conditioned space or become a closed addition to a single family dwelling. You understand those conditions?
Yes.
Great. Any questions on them?
No, I agree.
Can we get a roll call
Jill.
Aye.
Jeremy.
vote? Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Jody. Aye.
Great, you have your variance.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Other board matters. Any comments from the public? Nothing said?
You're gonna have to make a motion to table the other one.
Oh, I'm
To
sorry.
keep the public hearing open and
Is there a motion to keep the public hearing open? Thank you, good catch.
I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing open.
Jody second.
Yeah.
and table it until next meeting.
Next month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, John. Other board matters, any other board matters? Any public comments? Director of Development update. Before you start, you wanted me to remind you about this, about running into somebody, they were happy about our denial. Remember, we denied somebody,
Oh, yes,
let me remind you.
yes. Thank you. If you'll recall, there was a application over on Clover Trail Drive and State Drive, the corner lot, where the applicant wanted to have a fence extended into the front yard portion of the corner lot. And it was,
Was this
Yeah,
for the pool?
before,
For the
yeah.
pool, yeah.
and it was ultimately denied by this board. And you could tell that they were not very happy with us when they walked out of here. So I happened to be at Prosecco's And I'm talking with people I know there, and there's a couple. And she says to me, she said, "Are you the code officer?" And I said, "No, I'm the good guy." Did you hear that, Dan? And so anyways, she said, "I want to thank you." I said, "For what?" She said, "Well, I admit I was very hot under the collar that night. But, you know, the code officer came out and he worked with us, and we're very pleased with the results that we have now following the code."
Nice.
And I thought, you know, you gotta hear this.
Yeah.
Because I could tell it was bothering some of you to be a hardball guy and say no, but I wanted you to hear it as I heard it. So things do work out, believe it or not. And how that other incident on that other parcel next door happened, nobody knows. Anyhow, this application tonight before you, I don't know where it's going to go, but, you know, he hasn't really given us enough information to make that decision to grant a variance. And I think you all recognize that after you heard, well, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. He was not here. And as far as I know, the location still isn't clear where it's going to be on the property, or wants to. So hopefully we'll get that resolved for you. I think I just spoiled Sarah's November because we didn't have a meeting scheduled for next month. But unfortunately, the other thing that I wanted to raise is that we do have permission from the supervisor to grant you an hour of training, okay, to go through that court decision. Now, the zoning board of appeals was involved with the solar farm. You did deny the variances that were requested for the setbacks for that project. And as a result, they had to go back, redo the site plan. I think they amended the subdivision a little bit, and we had to redo secret. But it's important to read Judge Dorn's decision. There were 9 points that were being contested. And he found that all 9 points do not have justification. So, you know, if they appeal it, they appeal it, but it doesn't look as though it's going to go very far if they do. So I wanted to use the opportunity to bring out to you the importance of taking a hard look at seeker and to understand that the courts cannot superimpose their values upon your findings. So as long as you do your findings correctly, you'll be in good shape. And we'll talk more detail about that. 20 minutes, half hour. It's going to take a half hour anyways to read through all
Yeah, I'll read through that.
Yeah.
that, digest it.
Can Jody get credit for it too? She reads through it, even though she wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
She has the biggest.
You got a copy, right?
Yeah, I was thinking.
I wasn't part of it.
Oh, that's right, you want. Anything else?
Just to let you know that Thursday night here, the comprehensive plan, public hearing. This is the public hearing that's required to be conducted by the committee. Following this public hearing and any amendments, there'll be another public hearing by the town board, after which they'll submit a final document to the county along with the environmental record, and it will go to county planning and to the ag enhancement board. We'll come back. There'll be a public hearing, which in essence is a third public hearing. Okay, and action taken on. Now it's a big document, 1 chapter alone is 70-some pages, but it's 10 years worth of development here in the town for its went. how it got there, background information. So we continue to want to keep this at the forefront. And again, I say to you as a board, all this development that we've had, we haven't done it by zoning variances. Okay, so you're doing a good job, keep it up.
Thank you.
That's it.
Before I get to John, I'm gonna forget. So Dan, you got anything?
See there?
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Anyone I forget about you? John, you got anything?
As Ron said, we'll have a meeting now next month, November 22nd. Sarah's probably actually happy she gets overtime for these meetings. Not me, on the other. So we will be here for that. Hopefully we'll get some more support documentation from him that we can get out to you guys. I apologize over the weekend. I feel like I sent 8 million emails over the weekend and today to you guys. I just want to make sure you got everything as quickly as we got everything. And as far as property visits go, just remember, as most of you know, we do have access when they sign the application. They grant us and you guys, as part of being town staff, so to speak, access to their property to review it. This one's kind of weird because of the long driveway. I was kind of hesitant to drive up myself, so me and Ron arranged an appointment with them. So that's always an option if you guys want to arrange a time to meet the homeowner there. Otherwise, if you want to reach out to us, we can simply call them or send them an email, give us a date and time you plan to stop by, and we'll say, hey, one of our zoning board members is going to be there at this time to review your property. If you're there, you're there. You're not, you're not. So keep that in mind that you don't have to give them a warning, but if you want to, let us know. We'll reach out and do it on your behalf, or if you want to meet with the applicant, you give us a couple dates, we'll reach out to him, say these are the dates that are available, which one works for you, and we'll set all that up for you guys. And as we discussed, no more than 2 of you at a time. So 2 of you want to drive up together, that's fine, but once you get more than 2, we have to basically announce it as a public meeting, and anybody can come.
All right, so I mean, because of the long driveway, you know, I wouldn't feel comfortable just going that far into his property without having an appointment.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I don't want to be one-on-one. I don't want to be, you know, I have all the information I have, and we'll get more in the next meeting. How do I,
Well, I was gonna
just
Something
bring
there,
you guys with me?
yeah.
Or if it's during the daytime, let us know. One of us from the town will be more than one of us staff members will be more than happy to go up there and meet there, meet here and ride up together and go there with you. So
Probably the most
I
helpful,
mean, yeah, go ahead.
if they had those drawings submitted, because you're still looking at the light like I saw. And I sort of took back for you and didn't say anything, any hardship, but
Until they-
had explained.
Until they get an idea of where they're actually gonna put the barn, it's pointless. So you can go up there and take a look at
I was
it.
gonna
So we know
say-
where they're gonna put it. I mean, they can shift it another 30 feet and.
Well, he did say he wanted it 20 feet.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm not going back up there until I know where the barn's going.
and if they do that, that actually gonna kick in an amended application for you guys too.
Yeah.
Because basically their application is putting it right where they wrote
I was
on the
gonna ask you
application,
if
so.
that changes things.
That was one of the things, we looked at changing it, that was, you know, his applications for here, so if they want to redo a site plan, do it, we just gotta make sure we're using that terminology to make sure you guys are aware that your previous stuff doesn't apply anymore,
No.
only look at this stuff, or whether it does apply, so hopefully we'll be able to figure that out for you.
It sounds as though it's still gonna be in the front yard portion of the site. So,
Yeah, no documentation of hardship or not.
And if you guys, any of you guys wanna sit down and discuss this more, call myself and Ron, we'll schedule time, both of us, one of us, Dan, and we can go through the packet, or answer anything on the phone.
Discuss this.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, we weren't getting.
We didn't get it.
Yeah, we didn't get this.
So that one, you should have gotten an email, that was one of the emails on Saturday morning. You should have gotten an email from me with 5 emails that he sent me Friday afternoon with two
I read all the other.
attachments. I didn't check, but yeah, that was Saturday's email. Like I said, there was a bunch that day with him, and then today and yesterday, we got a bunch from the neighbors, some for, some against. So like I said, I was trying to get those out as I could. I know you got a couple copies. Everything we got today, just in case you didn't check your emails, Jeremy requested it too. There are copies of it in your packet in front of you that we provided you
I
guys.
requested because it's day of. I don't know if you guys checked your emails or the box, so I just figured
Right,
it fast.
right.
So that was the other reason you got all the information you got today that you normally don't get, was just because we had a lot come in today. And I
Yeah,
wanted to make sure that, you know, you guys had it, and there wasn't the, oh, well, you didn't give me all the information, it's from the applicant. So other than that, we are still looking for a clerk of the board. I'm not good with, land, I think that pro temp means per permanent or permanent, but that's just, so that's all I have. Mr. Chairman.
All right, our next meeting will be November 22nd. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Cody?
Second.
Joe, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.